Welcome back, everyone. So today's lesson is still about solving equations, but we are going to be simplifying before we solve. So the first thing we want to start off looking at is a mobile or a balance. And what you'll notice is that we have some stuff on the left-hand side, we have some stuff on the right-hand side, and it's perfectly level. So that means it's balanced. So that means the two sides are equal. So what we need to do is figure out what the question marks represent. And those question marks are circles, and all those circles are the same. And what I'm going to do is count them, and I'm going to count them by putting X's on them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fact that I said 4 and I made X's is really important because what I'm going to write first is 4X. And then along with those 4X's on the left-hand side, we have a positive 6, so I'm going to add 6. And then that's all equal to the right-hand side, which is 38. So it's really easy to make equations out of these mobiles if you just count the question marks that are in the same shape, add or subtract whatever you need to add, and then set it equal to what's on the other side. Okay, so now we have a two-step equation that we can solve. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. So the 6's cancel each other out. So we have 4x equals 32. And then we'll divide both sides by 4. So we get x is equal to 8. All right, it's your turn to try one. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and give this one a try. And when you are done, I want you to restart the video and we'll continue on. Okay, so what I said in the beginning was we're going to be solving equations, but we're going to have to simplify first. So in these two examples, you can see that in the first one, we have more than one x term on the left-hand side of the equation. So what we have to do is just identify, hey, I've got a 5x and I've got a positive 3x, and we need to combine those together. So 5x plus 3x is 8x. And then I'm just going to bring down the plus 27, and it's all equal to 51. Okay, so the thing I did here was I combined like terms before I even started trying to solve this problem. So you can see we now have a two-step problem. So I can subtract 27 from both sides. And when I subtract 27, they cancel each other out. So I have 8x equals 24. And then I'll divide both sides by 8. So the 8's cancel each other out. So we have x is equal to 3. Okay, so that's a fairly straightforward example where we have to combine like terms. Let's look at another one. So in this one, we're going to have to combine like terms on the right-hand side, but we're going to have to do it twice, and we're going to have to be really careful one time when we do it. So the thing I'm going to identify first is the x terms, and you'll notice in both of these examples, if there's a sign that's along with the x term, I include it when I highlight. So in this case, I included that minus sign with the 4x because that minus sign makes it a negative 4x. And then I'm just going to circle the plus 2 and the plus 6. So now I can see which ones I need to combine. So what I'm going to do is rewrite the problem. So I have 12 equals, and 3x minus 4x. 3 minus 4 is negative 1, so we have negative 1x. And then positive 2, positive 6, well, that's going to be plus 8. Okay, so now I can go ahead and solve this equation, and it's a two-step problem again. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So 12 minus 8 is 4 equals negative 1x, and the 8's cancel each other out. And then in this case, I wrote the negative 1x. We don't have to write the negative 1x. We could have just written it as negative x, but I like to write the negative 1 because it reminds us that, hey, we've got a number there that's still bothering the x that we need to get rid of. So I'm going to divide by negative 1. And anytime we divide by -1, it just simply changes the sign. So the +4 is going to become a -4. So we have -4 and x. So x is equal to -4. Okay, what I want you to do now is pause the video, and I want you to try these two problems on your own. And I want you to pay close attention to the signs. Make sure you include the signs when you are combining like terms. And when you are done with those two problems, restart the video and we'll continue on with some other examples. All right, another thing that you're going to run into that you're going to need to be able to do before you can solve a problem is distributing. Distributing is something that we need to do to simplify the equation before we can solve it. And in this case, we're going to have to distribute in some cases and combine like terms. So let's take a look at the first example. In the first one, we want to distribute, and kind of the universal sign for distributing is drawing these little arrows that are arched. Some people call them rainbows. And it's telling me that those two arrows mean that I have to distribute that -3 to both of the terms inside the parentheses. Okay, so when I do that, -3 times 2x is -6x. -3 times, and we've got to be really careful here because this is a -11. So -3 and a -11, that's a +33. And then I have this plus x, I'm just going to bring it along. I don't want to distribute to that plus x because it's outside of the parentheses. And then it's all equal to 73. Okay, so now in this case I have some like terms to combine. And I have a -6x and a +x. And if we remember, there's a 1 that goes in front of that x, so it's a +1x. So -6 plus 1, well, we're going to take 1 away from the 6 to make it a 5 in this case. So it's -5x plus 33 equals 73. Okay, so now I have a two-step equation. I can subtract 33 from both sides. And so if I bring down the -5x, the 33's cancel each other out, and that's all equal to 40. And then I'm going to divide by the -5. So they cancel each other out on the left-hand side, so we have x is equal to, so we have a positive divided by a negative, so we know our answer is going to be a negative number, so it's -8. Okay, one more. All right, and this is one that you're going to run into a lot, and it's rather tricky. Anytime we have a minus sign outside of a parenthesis, we know that there is a 1 that sits right between that minus sign and the parenthesis. So we are going to have to distribute a -1 to both of the terms inside the parentheses. So we want to be really careful with this because a lot of times what people will do is they'll distribute that 4 to the numbers, to the things inside the parentheses, but that 4 is separated by that minus sign. So we want to leave that separate and only distribute a -1 to the things inside the parentheses. Okay, and when we do that, the only thing that's going to happen when we distribute a -1 is the signs of the things inside the parentheses are going to change. Okay, so right now we have a +x and a +12. They're just going to both become negative. So I'm going to rewrite this as 14 equals 4. And so that x is going to become negative, so I can write -x. And then the 12 is going to become negative, so I can write -12. Okay, so then you can see we've got some like terms to combine. And when I combine 4 and -12, it's what I like to do is I like to just read it like it's a new little problem. So the stuff that's inside the orange highlight, it's just 4 minus 12. Okay, so we say 4 minus 12, and 4 minus 12 is -8. And then I'll bring along that minus x, and I'm going to put the 1 in there just because it'll make it easier to remember that we have to do another step at the end. Okay, so we have a negative 8. So anytime we see a negative 8, we're just going to add 8 to both sides. So we have 22 is equal to the 8's cancel. So we have negative 1x. And then we're going to divide by negative 1. And again, anytime we divide by negative 1, we just end up with the sign changing. So the positive 22 becomes a negative 22. And we have x. Okay, so down at the bottom, there are 2 that you get to try on your own. And the one on the right, be super careful with it because you're going to end up with 4 terms on the left-hand side. And it looks like to me that you're going to have to combine twice before you can solve. When you are finished with this assignment, what I want you to do is submit all of the answers in the red boxes to the assignment on Schoology labeled 4.2C.